It is definitely very easy to get caught up in what other people are doing, especially in the age of social media. But when you are focused on what other people are doing, comparing yourself to what other people are doing, you are not running your own race. The key to true success in life, I believe, is to focus on running your own race and to ignore absolutely everything else. Okay. I want to welcome you back to another episode of The Reflection Hour with your host, Sydney. So, today I've just been thinking a lot about how important it is to focus on the life that you desire to create. It's incredibly easy to get distracted from your goals, to get distracted from what you are wanting to do in this life. And just because it's easy doesn't mean that you should succumb to it, right? You should do something about it, hopefully. I mean, you don't have to. You can just be like everyone else or the majority of people and get caught up in status games and trying to look a certain way or trying to be around certain people or whatever it is. But is that really going to help you in your life? Probably not. I mean, the status seeking thing might help you for a little bit, but I do believe that a lot of that status seeking stuff is a band-aid because people don't want to admit to themselves that there's an aspect of themselves that feels inadequate to whatever environment they're in, and they figure that maybe if they had more status, maybe if they had materialistic items, maybe if they had the cool job, that life would get better and people would treat them better. But the reality is, unless you pour into yourself and you decide that, you know what, I don't care about any of this stuff, I'm doing me, things aren't going to change. I think maybe a lot of people who have met me think that I don't care about anything and that I'm in my own world and whatever. And part of that is true. But I think the other part of that is I think so much to the point where it can be a bit paralyzing. And I enjoy that about myself because it obviously has benefits, but it obviously has negatives to it, just like anything else, right? There's consequences and benefits to everything, whether you're super wealthy and you're living in a mansion or you're poor on the streets and living in a box. Like, there are benefits and consequences to absolutely everything. And yeah, you could say, whoa, like, what are the benefits of living in a box on the street? Well, you don't have to pay rent. You don't have to like follow social conventions. You can pretty much do whatever you want. But obviously, you're kind of fending for your life on the streets. That would be a consequence. When it comes to being super wealthy in a mansion, well, you have the money, you have the status, you have the this, you have the that, but then some of the consequences of that are that you don't know who you can really trust. Are people really for me, or are they out to get me? Are they just using me for things that I have? So again, there are benefits and consequences to absolutely everything, but you can only really see that if you're being honest with yourself and if you're approaching everything from a grounded perspective. So, that being said, I think that when you start to really focus on your own life and you really put on those blinders and you look at your own race, you focus on your own race, you become honest with yourself about what are my true priorities and are the things that are presently in my life, whether it's your job, whether it's your living situation, whether it's your friends, your relationships in general, romantic, are they in alignment with where I'm going in my life? Are they in alignment with the race that I'm choosing to run that is my life? And if the answer is no, well, then you are going to have to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself some very difficult questions, because that is truly the only way that you are going to begin to run your own race. And if we're being honest, once you really put on those blinders, you'll see that you've always been running your own race anyway. So you might as well make that the focus of your life. So I was reading some of that book, The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. And I'm on this chapter called Live by Priority. So the opening quote is by Alan Lakin, and it says, "Planning is bringing the future into the present so that you can do something about it now." And I've been thinking a lot about this as I started my new job last week. And I'm just noticing that a lot of my priorities are changing, just how I'm thinking about things, the things that I'm gravitating towards, and what I really want out of my life. And I think that's a really great thing. I think this shift in perspective has been a long time coming. And it's always interesting when a new environment truly ushers in a new way of thinking. And it really, again, puts things into perspective of how have I been living my life? And do I want to continue to live my life in the way that I've been living it? Or do I want to do something different? And if I want to do something different, I'm the only one who can do that. So if I'm not focused on how I'm going to position myself, how I'm going to make the changes that I need to make so that the future that I want to have is inevitable, until you get real with yourself about that, you can't really expect for anything to change. And I think that's the major reason why I've been feeling this need to really change around a lot of things in my life, and why I think many people, places, and things haven't been resonating with me in the way that they have been in a previous season of my life. So this chapter starts off, and it's a quote from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. So it says, "Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here?" "That depends a good deal on where you want to get to," said the cat. "I don't much care where," said Alice. "Then it doesn't matter which way you go," said the cat. Alice's classic encounter with the Cheshire Cat and Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland reveals the close connection between purpose and priority. Live with purpose and you know where you want to go. Live by priority and you'll know what to do to get there. When each day begins, we each have a choice. We can ask, "What shall I do?" or "What should I do?" Without direction, without purpose, whatever you shall do will always get you somewhere. But when you're going somewhere on purpose, there will always be something you should do that will get you where you must go. When your life is on purpose, living by priority takes precedence. Goal setting to the now. As Ebenezer Scrooge profoundly discovered, our life is driven by the purpose we give it. But there's a catch. Even he had to confront. Purpose has the power to shape our lives only in direct proportion to the power of the priority we connect it to. Purpose without priority is powerless. All those P's, oh my God. To be precise, the word is priority, not priorities. And it originated in the 14th century from the Latin prior, meaning first. If something mattered the most, it was a priority. Curiously, priority remained unpluralized until around the 20th century, when the world apparently demoted it to mean generally, quote, "something that matters," end quote, and the plural priorities appeared. With the loss of its initial intent, a wide variety of sayings like "most pressing matter," "prime concern," and "on the front burner" pitched in to recapture the essence of the original. Today, we elevate priority to its former meaning by adding highest, top, first, main, and most important in front of it. It would seem priority has traveled an interesting route. So watch your language. You may have many ways to talk about priority, but no matter the words you choose to achieve extraordinary results, your meaning must be the same. One thing. I'm going to skip down a little bit. The truth about success is that our ability to achieve extraordinary results in the future lies in stringing together powerful moments one after the other. What you do in any given moment determines what your experience will be in the next. Your present now and all future nows are undeniably determined by the priority you live in the moment. The deciding factor in determining how you set that priority is who wins the battle between your present and future selves. And I think the reason why this is really hitting home for me is because I just realized, and I have been realizing for the past few months especially, that a lot of my priorities have not been in full alignment with where I truly want to go. And I was definitely lying to myself because I think I really got caught up in bullshit, whether that's scrolling on social media or thinking that I'm going to live a certain life because of how it looks or be around people because of the status or whatever. And I'm not even like a status junkie like that, but I think sometimes we buy into the images that people sell and we really kind of project what people are like based on the images that we see. But unless you actually know these people and speak to them every single day, it's unfair to that person or those people, as well as to yourself, for you to say that, hey, like, they're going where I'm going. You don't know where they're going. You don't even know where you're going. So why don't you focus on where you're going and let go of the idea that you know exactly who's supposed to be in your life, what things, places are supposed to be in your life, and just get really clear on what it is that you are aiming toward. And when you can get really clear on that, it'll enable you to then decipher in the present moment what people, places, and things align with that. And as much as I wanted to delude myself into believing that I had it going on and I am just so insightful and yeah, I'm on the right track, if I looked at my life and I looked at my results said that I was a ship that left a dock and had no destination and ended up in the middle of the ocean, lost at sea. And I think a lot of people don't want to admit to themselves that that is the case for them as well. And again, don't pay attention to what they're doing. Pay attention to yourself. And it's funny because I remember years ago, I was in the car with a cousin of mine and I was talking to him about something. And he turns over to me and said, wow, like you talk a lot about other people and you don't talk about yourself. Like, what is it that you want? And I was really taken aback by that because I wasn't expecting him to say that. And I think he said that because I was online at the time on like TikTok and YouTube, and I was talking a lot about like these celebrities and trying to relate the psychological topics to what I knew about them. And it's like, why don't you just relate that to yourself? Why don't you talk about yourself instead of talking about other people? And I think a lot of people get caught up in this, whether it's at jobs, like talking about your coworkers and what they've got going on, or talking about just people around who you don't really know, but maybe they're doing something. It's giving them some notoriety. Like, talk about yourself. Focus on yourself. Run your own race. None of these people know you whatsoever, okay? They don't care about you whatsoever, okay? So why not care about yourself? And I think it can be hard to hear that sometimes, especially when it's so popular to get on your phone, go on TikTok, go on Instagram, and to chat about what's happening with the Love Island characters, or chat and talk about what's going on with these reality TV stars in general. But it's like, we, by doing that, are only making them and their dreams come alive, right? As opposed to our dreams come alive. And one of the biggest shifts that I've noticed when it comes to me thinking about myself and me really being more honest with myself about what it is that I want and where I'm going, I have really stopped listening to a lot of music. I really don't listen to music like how I used to, because I don't really care about half the artists and half of the music that I hear. I don't think it's that great, to be honest. Maybe you think it's great, but I think a lot of it is whatever to me. It's just noise, and the messaging that I hear in it, I don't really care for it. I don't want you to be hypnotizing me to be thinking about what half the shit these people are saying. Like, I don't really care. Okay? And these people are making millions and billions of dollars saying bullshit, and I'm supporting it by listening to it? Absolutely not. I'm not listening to it. And that's literally how I felt about Drake's 3 albums that he dropped more recently. I just couldn't do it. And let me rant for a sec, because I think what I'm about to say is valid. Maybe you disagree. I don't really care. I think that if you have been producing music over the span of 20 plus years and there's been no real growth in what you share in your music, I don't want to listen anymore. I have no desire to listen to, whether that's Drake, whether that's Taylor Swift. Like, I don't care to listen, because you're not growing as a human. You're only doing what works. And if you only always do what works, you are not brave to me. Sure, you're a billionaire, but you're not a brave billionaire. You're not brave in the sense that you're not exploring the depths of your human psyche and psychoanalyzing yourself and utilizing your music as the medium to express that. Like, that's what I want to see. I want to see personal development through one's music. And I just think a lot of these major artists are not doing that. And whatever, that's their prerogative. But at the end of the day, I don't have to listen to it anymore if I don't want to. And I have been consciously choosing not to listen to it. That's been my thing. Maybe that's not for you. I'm not you, right? Like, live your life. I don't really care. I'm just sharing what I think. And I was actually reading this book called The Undiscovered Self by Carl Jung. And it was talking a little bit about how once you start to essentially really psychoanalyze yourself and make these changes, it can be really difficult to look at yourself the same, obviously. And your thinking will obviously be different. And the things that you do as a result, meaning your actions, will be different. And you will be much less likely to resonate with the things that you used to, because now you know way too much. So I'm going to read kind of a lot from this. So it starts, our ideas have, however, the unfortunate but inevitable tendency to lag behind the changes in the total situation. They can hardly do otherwise, because so long as nothing changes in the world, they remain more or less adapted and therefore function in a satisfactory way. There is then no cogent reason why they should be changed and adapted anew. Only when conditions have altered so drastically that there is an unendurable rift between the outer situation and our ideas, now become antiquated, does the general problem of our Weltanschauung, or philosophy of life, I totally butchered that name, by the way, arise. And with it, the question of how the primordial images that maintain the flow of instinctive energy are to be reoriented or readapted. So what I got from that is, once you essentially are awakened to things, like the true state of things, and it forces you to change your philosophy of life, it's very difficult for you to remain in the state you were now that you know this new state isn't gonna fly, right? Like, you have to change something because you now know better. He continues, they cannot simply be replaced by a new rational configuration, for this would be molded too much by the outer situation and not enough by man's biological needs. Moreover, not only would it build no bridge to the original man, but it would block the approach to him altogether. So, I think this is really interesting because I'm going through this right now, and I'm kind of noticing it not even with just jobs, but I'm also noticing it with friendships and relationships in general, the types of people that I've been attracted to and the types of work environments that I'm attracted to. And it's an interesting change for me because I guess I kind of wasn't expecting it. And this happened as a result of me focusing on myself and me getting more clear on what it is that I actually want to create in this world and actively doing it on a daily basis. So, perfect example, this podcast. I decided a few weeks back that I was going to make an episode a week. At first, I thought it was 2 episodes. It kind of changed. I did settle on the fact that I was going to release at least 1 episode a week, and I've been sticking to it, and that's been it. I haven't ever really fought with myself or tried to give myself a pass. Oh, you don't feel like doing it this week, like you don't have to do it. No, I just decided this is something that I do, so I do it. And I just do it, right? When it comes to my work life, I decided to switch into a new role because I thought the company was better and I thought they treated their employees better and I knew there was more opportunity for growth. So I went there, and I am the type of person who strives for excellence. So that's what I do in everything I do. And with that, right, you can't look at one area of your life and say, I want to be excellent in it, and then look at another area of your life and not carry that same energy into it. Okay? And that's why I also look at my friendships and I say, if you are not going to be a ride or die for me, I don't really need you to be my friend. I'm not looking for fair weather friends. I'm not looking for people to just go out with and hang out with and we drink and we go home. I don't care to have friends like that anymore. It's not something that matters to me because there's no substance to it. And I think that's the key thing. I crave substance. I know that I'm a substantive person. So if the people approaching me aren't substantive, I don't want anything to do with you. And I think when I was trying to convince myself that I wasn't as substantive as I am, I would look at the facades that people would present and I would say, you know what? I know what they're really thinking. I know what's really going on beneath the surface, but I don't know what's going on beneath the surface because I have not talked to them. They have not talked to me. Why would I think that I know? That's kind of crazy. And I can see how I was being a little crazy because I was trying to predict what other people were doing, feeling, thinking, instead of literally asking them or observing the behavior of this person, these people, what's going on at this job, and being like, okay, this is the state of this person, people, job. Am I going to accept this and see that this is how it is right now? Or am I going to hold on to the notion that I believe that I see something that other people aren't seeing, and if I just stay a little bit longer, and maybe if I change those situations, those people, maybe things will change. No, you have to change yourself. Focus on yourself. Focus on the race that you are running in your life and stop trying to do things to affect people. Like literally, you can only really affect yourself. Maybe you'll affect other people by affecting yourself. But if you focus on affecting yourself, that is the best case scenario. Because if you affect yourself, that means you are changing your life. And isn't that the best case scenario? And this takes a lot of self-reflection. I won't lie to you. It requires immense self-reflection. And you are gonna probably not love a lot of the things that you find out because one of the main things you're going to find out is that you have a choice in most things. And instead of exercising that choice, maybe you play the victim. Maybe you have held on to people, places, and things longer than you should have because you were thinking that, hey, I can change this. I can be the one who changes this. But why? When you can just change yourself. I feel like that's so much easier. Focus on yourself. I could easily call this Focus on Yourself, but I do think I have a podcast episode called that. And I just really like the idea of running your own race because that's what we're doing. This is a marathon, right? So run your race. Life is a marathon. And if you focus on your marathon as opposed to what other marathons people have got going on, it's just a way better thing. And there's just so much you can do with that. Because again, you can't change other people. You can only change yourself. And it's hard enough to change yourself. It's hard enough to change yourself. And this brings me to another quote from The Undiscovered Self. People think you have only to tell a person that he ought to do something in order to put him on the right track. But whether he can or will do it is another matter. The psychologist has come to see that nothing is achieved by telling, persuading, admonishing, giving good advice. He must also get acquainted with the details and have an authentic knowledge of the psychic inventory of his patient. He has therefore to relate to the individuality of the sufferer and feel his way into all the nooks and crannies of his mind to a degree that far exceeds the capacity of a teacher or even a directeur de conscience. His scientific objectivity, which excludes nothing, enables him to see his patient not only as a human being, but also as a subhuman who is bound to his body, like an animal. The development of science has directed his interest beyond the range of the conscious personality to the world of unconscious instinct dominated by sexuality and the power drive or self-assertion, corresponding to the twin moral concepts of St. Augustine, concupiscentia and superbia. The clash between these two fundamental instincts, preservation of the species and self-preservation, is the source of numerous conflicts. They are, however, the chief object of moral judgment, whose purpose it is to prevent these instinctual collisions as far as possible. Now, when I think of this, right, self-preservation, that is always making sure that you're okay regardless of what's happening, right? And when it comes to preservation of the species, I think this is our innate sexual drive and why maybe you feel like, oh, well, I have to get married right now. Oh, well, I have to do this. I have to start a family. Like, maybe take a step back. Maybe like put societal expectations on the back burner and really think about, am I allowing these two things to be the reasons why I do everything? Or am I self-directing my life and truly marching to the beat of my own drum, running my own race, really reflecting on what it is that I desire to create in my life, desire to do in my life, and doing it? Because at the end of the day, when you get to the end of your life, you're going to be sitting with the reality of what your life was. And if you don't like what your life was, you can blame society, you could blame your family, you could blame the job that you had or the career path that you went down. But at the end of the day, you are the person who went down that road. At any point in time, you could have decided, I don't want to go down this road anymore. I want to go down a new road. I don't care what people have to say about me going down this road. I want to go down the road that I want to go down because this road resonates with me the most. And you should feel that way about your life because it's your life. You only have one life in this vessel, this body. And far too many people take that for granted. I think I've taken it for granted at times, but I'm not taking it for granted anymore, that's for sure. But I think it's very easy to get caught up in bullshit. And I think bullshit is literally you being focused on other people. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't love some reality TV, because you know what I'm going to be doing tonight? Watching Love Island, okay? That is a guilty pleasure. It is a psychological, anthropological study for me that I enjoy. And that's the tea on that, okay? You can have balance in your life. It's fine. But if you are too caught up in what other people are doing and you're not caught up in your own life, you are going to get to a place where you are like, what the fuck happened? What did I do with my life? And it's so interesting. That seems to be one of my favorite words. I say that word all the time in this podcast, that a lot of people, when they're in nursing homes, they talk about, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, or people on their deathbeds. I remember, so when my grandpa died in 2021, he was not in a great space mentally because he had Alzheimer's and dementia. So with Alzheimer's and dementia, if you don't know, it infantilizes you. Like, it infantilizes your mind, and it brings you back to a state of being really young. Like, it's kind of crazy. And the types of memories that I noticed that my grandpa would recall would be moments when he was really young. And I remember some of the things that he would kind of stim about, like vocal stems, if you know that word, is he would talk about like, oh, I was going to do this, I was going to do that. And he would also harp on how he could have been this, he could have been that. And I don't think it was just the case for my grandfather. I think it's the case for a lot of elderly people who get to the end of their life and they realize that they didn't really go after their dreams. They didn't really live life to the fullest. They played it safe. A lot of people play it safe. They don't want to ruffle too many feathers, so they don't. And if you don't really ruffle feathers, you're not going to really live a unique life that is unforgettable, even if it's unforgettable to your family members, right? If you are living a life that is predictable, where you care so much about what society thinks of you, you're climbing the social ladder, all that stuff, it's soulless. What do you get from doing that? You get absolutely fucking nothing from doing that. Excuse my French. It's just the case. I think the best thing to do, and this is just me, I think the best thing to do is to be yourself and to do what makes you happy. And do what makes you happy within reason, because I think it's still important to obviously have a grand vision for your life and to do everything you can in the now to make steps toward it. Because if you do something every single day that gets you one step closer to that vision, at some point in time, I don't know when that time will come, your time will come. And one of the songs that is coming to mind right now, or I don't even remember the song right now, it might be Ape Shit by the Carters, but they essentially talk in the song about how they had been visualizing and putting energy and working to get to where they are right now, they being Beyonce and Jay-Z, and they're like, damn, we finally made it. Look at what we made. I'm like totally butchering the lyrics right now. But basically, they say that they finally got to where they were trying to go and how crazy it is that they're actually there. And what I find to be so amazing about that is when you truly put your intention towards something and you back it with action, inspired action specifically, you will get where you want to go. But if you're too focused on what other people have got going on, you're not going to get there because your locus of focus is everywhere but where it needs to be. Okay? So, food for thought. Food for thought. I want to read more of this book, The Undiscovered Self. So, nothing estranges man more from the ground plan of his instincts than his learning capacity, which turns out to be a genuine drive towards progressive transformations of human modes of behavior. It, more than anything else, is responsible for the altered conditions of our existence and the need for new adaptations which civilization brings. It is also the source of numerous psychic disturbances and difficulties occasioned by man's progressive alienation from his instinctual foundation, i.e., by his uprootedness and identification with his conscious knowledge of himself, by his concern with consciousness at the expense of the unconscious. The result is that modern man can know himself only insofar as he can become conscious of himself, a capacity largely dependent on environmental conditions, the drive for knowledge and control of which necessitated or suggested certain modifications of his original instinctive tendencies. His consciousness, therefore, orients itself chiefly by observing and investigating the world around him. And it is to its peculiarities that he must adapt his psychic and technical resources. This task is so exacting and its fulfillment so advantageous that he forgets himself in the process, losing sight of his instinctual nature and putting his own conception of himself in place of his real being. In this way, he slips imperceptibly into a purely conceptual world where the products of his conscious activity progressively replace reality. And I think what immediately hits home when I hear this is when you hear people on social media say, oh my gosh, like we need to do this and that, and it's all theory and we feel this is how things should be, but you could feel that way, but what is the reality of the situation? And what logical steps can we take right now to get to this theoretical or utopia that we'd like to live in? It's okay to dream of utopia, but unless you have practical steps that you can take right now to get us there, it doesn't really mean anything at all. And I think this is why politics is so crazy to me. I believe that politicians sell a lie to everyone. I don't believe that they believe what they're selling. I think they know that most people are so feelings based, so emotional or emotionally based that as long as you pull on the emotional heartstrings of an individual, you can get them to vote for you. If you say, oh, I'm not going to be like that guy, I'm not going to be like that woman, they will probably vote for you. If you say the right things, they will probably vote for you. And I've been one of those people who's voted for those people and who's not voted for those people. And this is why you have to really take a step back and you have to look at what's actually going on. What groundwork is really being laid? And something that I thought was really cool that I learned about like maybe 2 weeks ago, I don't know when it opened, but LA is really trying to fix its traffic problem by opening these different train stations, completing these different train lines. And they recently opened this train line called the D, which I guess goes through, I want to say it's Beverly Hills. I think it's Beverly Hills. And for the longest, a lot of the residents apparently didn't want there to be a train stop because they're like, oh no, like they're trying to basically keep it sacred and not have people over there. But the thing is, a lot of businesses that are over in Beverly Hills, obviously, it's hard to get to them if you don't have a car. So they suffer that way. So it's like, it's good for business to have expanded metro networks. And it's just great overall for humans, right? If you can get around and you don't need a car, it makes life so much better. And I actually spent some time in LA, and I've got to say, LA sucks when it comes to public transportation. Like, you really can't get anywhere. And I remember actually riding the train from, I don't even remember where it was. I think it was like downtown LA over to Santa Monica. And I thought that was pretty cool. I just figured I should do it at least once because I do like to go to cities and use their public transportation just to compare it to New York and just other cities that I've been to. I feel like Europe has it pretty down packed. I have not been to Asia yet, so that's definitely something that I need to look into. I would also say in Southern America, while there may not be as many subway stations and all that, I do think that the transit networks are pretty great, right? Like you can get where you need to go and not have a car, which I think is great. And when it comes to the US, we are so behind. We're so grossly behind. And largely, a lot of that is due to the fact that many of these car companies, when they were just starting out, so Ford, I'm thinking about mainly, they were lobbying to ensure that roads were built and public transit networks were shelved, which is so unfortunate today because now we live in a place, if you're an American, where you largely need a car to get around, which means that's another expense that you need to pay. And it really doesn't enable you to do certain things if you don't have a car. Like, you simply cannot get to certain places without a car, which means you need a license, which means you need to pay for a car. And that can just be a lot. It's just one extra thing. I don't even know the reason why I went down this tangent, but clearly I want to talk about my love for public transportation and why I believe the US should be investing more into it. But my main point with that is people in LA imagined a future where there was going to be public transportation. While it's been taking some time and there's still more time that it's going to take, this train opened up and it's making that vision more of a reality than it was in the past. And you have to look at yourself in that way, okay? The more that you focus on your own race, the more that you get clear on what race you're even running, you will be able to actually get to the end of your race and have a moment where you're like, you know what? I may be on my deathbed, but I really ran my race. I really did the things that I wanted to do in my life. And I wasn't caring what anybody else had to say about it. I wasn't stepping on people's toes, not purposefully. I had a good heart or kind heart towards myself and others, but obviously, maybe some people villainized me. Maybe I was the villain truly in some people's story. But at the end of the day, I did what I wanted to do because I wanted to do it. Not because someone else was telling me that I should do it or that society was telling me that I should do it, but I wanted to do it. And I actually took that time throughout my life to get clear with myself about what that was for me, why I was doing it. And I think more so than anything, you have to get to a place where you know why you're doing something. If you don't know why you're doing something, why do it? It doesn't make any sense. And yet, so many of us, we do things for no real reason other than the fact that we see other people doing it. And that's not a good reason to do something. It's truly not. But again, it's your life. Whatever you choose to do is up to you. And that's that on that. So, if you enjoyed this episode today, which is a bit long-winded, I think, like, comment, subscribe, maybe share with a friend. I'm going to go get ready to watch Love Island because it's been very good this season and I'm such a lover of it. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye!